how you could chillum hagus glianach. That was Gaelic for it is so sunny and dry here. This is the first proper consistent ray of sunlight we've experienced on the Isle of Skye since the beginning of summer, and I'm taking this advantage to capture some long awaited images of the Culin Mountains. So hundreds of years ago, all these moorlands in the Scottish Highlands and Islands were filled with forests just like this. They were filled with all these beautiful birch trees and Caledonian pines and all kinds of different species. But due to overgrazing over the past centuries and deforestation, these woodlands became very scarce now in Scotland. I don't know about you, but I can hear a river chiming away just over there. I think we have to follow it, don't we? Well, here we are, and isn't this place just amazing? I really love the contrast of just walking straight out of the woodlands and have this expanse of coastline in front of me. But before we start hunting for compositions, there's something really amazing I need to show you. It's just over here. So this stone wall you see here, it's not a wall, it's not artificial, it's completely natural. It's one piece of giant rock in the shape of a dry stone wall. It's unbelievable. I have no idea what sort of geological mechanism caused this. I just really want to share it with you. The waves are quite loud, so I'm not sure if you can pick me up or not, but it's about 7 in the evening, and that means we're still 3 hours away from sunset, and I've just spotted my first image. The light is not great at the moment, so this is going to be a black and white shot, and the composition can't be simpler. We have this rock at sea, and behind the rock are the part of the Culin Mountains. The sky is quite dramatic tonight actually, so I've given quite some weight to it in my image. Yeah, just a simple shot. Nothing really, no tricks to it really. But yeah, a good start nonetheless. So it got a bit chilly all of a sudden, so I thought to put on my trousers and jumper. And I thought just to take a sandwich break anyways. I've been walking up and down this bouldery beach for a while. I've found some average compositions and I'm not really terribly excited by them. I will continue work on them after this and show you what I was photographing, but now I'm just taking a break, and there are a few gannets fishing out at the sea. There's a really small one somewhere. I couldn't find it now, but it was just constantly diving and failing to catch a fish. You know, it's quite a show. Quite a show. Oh, what a place to be, eh? What a place to be. So I'm still on my sandwich break, but just as I was eating, I saw there's a distant isle on the ocean. I think it's Isle of Tokina, so I'm not too sure, but the sky, the clouds above it is just so dramatic, and I just had to grab a shot. Alright, so I'm very sorry to so rudely cut you away from the beautiful sceneries of the Hebrides to, well, my face, really. But you see, I've got some explanations to do before I carry on with the videos of why have I disappeared for such a long time, and what has become the rest of my trip to Skye, and what's happening with my photography and with me in general, I suppose, and well, here it is. So I did spend almost 3 months on the Isle of Skye, and I did tons of photography there, but before I travelled, the main reason I went there was not for photography. It was I actually had a job there as a living carer for a lovely old man in a traditional crofting village. There's not even a bus that runs to the village. It was a hugely encouraging and rewarding experience, and Ali and I really bonded by the time we had to part. So he had dementia, and quite a serious stage as well, but surprisingly it didn't really stop him from remembering me as his jolly old Poe, as he put it. But this meant I had to sort everything out in the house before I could go out and do some photography. And luckily I was utterly blessed by another loving carer who was working with me, and she was really dedicated and loving and caring. And so yeah, we were a very good team, and that means we can share the workload and we can share the free time as well. And so that means I could have more time to go out and explore the local area and to film and to photograph the landscape there. But however, a few weeks into the summer, the situation has changed quite drastically at the house with Alistair as well. And it was around that time that I crashed my drone. So I decided I wouldn't film at all for the rest of my time there, and to really focus on supporting Ali first. But I still managed to get out a few times, and I got some quite good shots, I think. So I just talk you through some of the images I took for the rest of this video. Shall we get on? So the first one here. Oh, that's quite a strong start. So this one is one of my favourite images, actually. So we had all these gigantic cliffs on the north side of the Sleat peninsula, overlooking the Coastline Mountains, and so yeah, this is one of the highest ones, I think. So I was walking up and down this bouldery coast, and to try to find an interesting foreground to frame the cliffs. I think I did quite a good job here. I found this boulder when the tide was just receding, so all the I would call them sea snails, but they probably have a proper name. Yes, it's a very interestingly textured foreground, or the rock, and I think this one is quite well balanced as well, especially on the top right hand side. There's another, it's actually very low, but I would still call it a cliff, another sort of intrusion in the landscape that occupies that area, and really balances the images out. Right, next one. So this one was further down the coast, so I was walking towards that intrusion just here, and I found, I think this was at a higher tide, so early in the day. And I just really love the sweeping patterns that the receding wave produces, and it flows and weaves really well with all the rocks that's lying around on the coast as well. And at the back we have quite a strong focal point. Yeah, quite like it. And oh, by the way, these two photographs were professionally printed, and I'm actually quite proud of them. So I'll get you a print. Alright, here we are. So this is a framed signed print of the first image. I spent quite some effort into this, and I'm quite happy with the result. And the reason I'm mentioning it is because I'm selling my prints. I've got several prints to sell. My favourite one is, I'll just bring it to you. You'll see. Alright, so this one was some of the older subscribers may recognise. It was a photograph I took in the K&F National Park. I think about a year ago or 2 years ago. It's my absolute all-time favourite. And I found a really nice frame from Oxfam for it, and it's just really well produced. And so I'm selling all these prints, and I will have I'll leave a link in the description so you can check it out. They're quite, so I've set the price quite high because because I'm donating half of my profits to Scottish Seabird Centre, which is a charity, and the Scottish Crofting Federation, which I thoroughly and wholeheartedly support. And so if you fancy a nice reprints, nice signed prints of mine, and if you want to support the two organisations I've mentioned, do check out the print sale. And yeah, the link is down in the description. Right, let's move on. So here's a different, another coastal feature, the sort of intimate coastal feature. Quite a nice cliff that's lit by the fleeting sunlight, and so it's quite nicely balanced, I would say. I quite enjoy it. Now, this one. Okay, so this one I was actually standing on one of the cliffs and looking down towards the coast I was walking on, and I just really love the summery heather and all the flora that's covering the cliff, and they're sort of forming this curve that leads you into the distance, into the Hebridean Sea, and you can see the Isle of Egg at the back. Just lovely. Aye, right, okay, so the next set, what should we do? Okay, let's make things a bit more interesting. So, very fortunately, when I was up there, I had the privilege of witnessing the Northern Lights from more than 2 times, and 3 times it was. So I grabbed some lovely shots. So this one, I mean, there's not much to it. It's just amazing to see it as a start, and to capture it was just such a privilege. So I photographed this one literally at the back of the house. We have a small lochan higher up in the hills, and I would just walk up to the loch. It's about 5 minutes hike, really. It's not really a hike, it's literally just a walk. But when it's very still, it reflects the light very well. There's actually an embarrassing story to it, behind this photograph. So when I was going to this lochan to photograph the Northern Lights, I accidentally left the gate open, and the family I was staying with, Ali's family, they kept ponies, and they're quite famous because one of the ponies, Kiara, beat the late Queen's pony in the Royal Highland Show 2018, and I left the gate open, and the ponies got away, and they were roaming in the hills, and there were cliffs literally just miles, not even miles, the cliffs around, so it's very dangerous for them to be there. And normally I would shut the gates behind me, but I don't know what happened to me that day. Maybe I was just so excited to see the Northern Lights. But the good news is the ponies were safe. We in the morning we realised they were gone, and so we looked for them in the hills, and they got them back safely. So it's just the reflection makes this image better, I think. If it's and I quite like the rushes, the water rushes in the loch, sort of separating. I I don't really know. I just feel like it's much better that they are there. And this one I really like. But it's quite a shame that I didn't have a more photosensitive camera, so this image is quite noisy. If it wasn't, the columns of light would become clearer and more structured, more textured. Yeah, but what I love about this image is the triangular, the notch shape that's produced by the water rushes. Well, to be fair, I actually sort of crafted it because I was shifting my camera along the lockhand to get the perfect angle, I suppose, the perfect curve. I think it worked quite well, and I do prefer it in black and white because we have really strong columns of light, and the mountains really adds, and that just. It was just quite surreal. The cooling mountains with the northern lights, with the reflection and the water rushes, is quite perfect. Right, now the night has passed. Let's move on to more daytime photography. While I didn't find any foregrounds for the cooling mountains when I was there, but I did photograph them because why wouldn't you? Okay. So this one is the classic Cullen skyline, it was a very still evening, so that means I could get my long lens out and really get a sharp photograph. And I love how this single blob of cloud is up there and balancing the whole image, adding interest to it. And I also printed this one. Alright, there it is. It's also signed, and I think it makes quite a nice table piece, if I do say so myself. Sorry, that'll be the last time I plug my prints. The links down below in the description. Right. Okay. Next one. Moving on. So these two are to. Okay, I just realised that my camera stopped filming halfway, so I lost all my footage. I was going to edit, so I was going to start the editing, but realised I didn't really have all the footage. Right, so I think I left off at about this image, the skyline image. So the next few I'm going to show you is this black and white photograph of the Cullen Mountains, and so I think that was quite a cloudy afternoon, so I wasn't really expecting much to happen. But suddenly there was a crack in the sky, and this heavenly column of light just poured out, and I was just sweeping through the sea, through the landscape, and it was very dramatic. And the one thing that really intrigued me was this little hat of a cloud on top of Ben Lannister, which is the highest peak in the sky, and it just makes the image a lot more. It's just adorable, I have to say. And another thing that really touched me is on the bottom bit of this image, all these little croft houses, where crofters would live and work their land, and it reminded me of this poem written by Norman MacCaig, or in Gaelic Ptolemit MacCaig, I think, called "Return to Skye." And I'll just read an abstract from this poem, and I tried to read it in a Scottish accent, but if I offended you, I do apologise, but I'm just having a bit of fun. A man bows in the north wind, shaping up his lazy bed, and through the salt air vagrant peat smells weaver from the houses where no house should be. The sheds at the cooling station have been newly tarred. Aunt Julia's house has vanished. The red well has been bulldozed away. But sharp and hard, the church still stands, barring the road to hell. Yeah, so the one line that really resonated with me with this photograph was this: from houses where no house should be. And it just really this image just really reminds me of the perseverance the love, the care of this crofter that these crofters have living and dwelling on this land. And yeah, over the years I've learned a lot about crofting in Scotland. I've worked on a croft last year on Lewis, and this year was even though I was a carer, I was still living on a croft, so I was very much trying to sort of immersing myself in this rooted way of living, I suppose, and it was very eye-opening and very touching. And the next one is relatable to this as well. So I think that was quite a more colourful sunset. We have all these layers of colours in the sky, and we see the three croft houses by the sea. It's quite abstract, apart from the houses, and it's I feel like it paints a picture of the mundane but also colourful and dramatic life the crofters live. Yeah, it's quite lovely, quite lovely. Last one, I think this is the last one on the same day, on the same sort of colourful day. Yeah, so it was a very stormy day so it was quite stormy during the day, and by sunset I think the clouds were drifting apart and breaking, and so the hills were sort of appearing, disappearing from the shifting fogs and low clouds. And yeah, so I put on a ND filter to take a longer exposure. Oh, my back. Yeah, so it's quite a mysterious image, the Misty Mountains, I'm calling it. Aye, that's the last one. Well, thank you for sticking around. If you made it this far, that's definitely something wrong with you. But if you did, Sanchavar, cheers, thank you. And oh, God knows when will my next video be. So we'll see. Right, we'll see. I'll definitely return at some point. Okay, I'll leave you here for now. Hope you have a good Christmas and a good Happy New Year to you. Alright. See you next time. Bye bye.